The person who needs to be respected the most is often the easiest person to control. Think about that. An insult can control him. A rejection can control him. A lack of attention can control him. Even a stranger's opinion can control him. Because beneath the confidence, there is a hidden hunger. I need you to see me as important. And that hunger is exactly what François de la Rochefoucauld spent his life exposing. We like to believe strong people don't care what others think. But that is only half the truth. The real danger is much darker. Vanity does not always look like arrogance. Sometimes it looks like ambition. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. Sometimes it looks like morality. Sometimes it even looks like humility. A man says he wants success. But does he want success, or does he want people to know he succeeded? A woman says she doesn't care about attention. But why does she keep checking who noticed? A leader says he wants the truth. But what happens when the truth makes him look incompetent? And here is where the trap closes. The more you need other people to confirm your value, the more power you quietly give them. They don't need to threaten you. They only need to withhold approval. They don't need to defeat you. They only need to make you feel insignificant. And suddenly, the person who believes he is powerful begins changing his behavior for people he secretly despises. But there is something even more disturbing. You can become addicted to admiration without realizing it. You can reject compliments while secretly hoping someone notices how humble you are. You can say, "I don't care what people think," while spending your entire life constructing an identity designed to impress them. And social media has turned this ancient weakness into a machine. Every like is a tiny reward. Every view is a tiny judgment. Every comment becomes evidence about who you are. But what happens when the applause stops? What happens when nobody is watching? What remains when there is no audience left to convince? That is the question La Rochefoucauld forces us to confront. Because the strongest soul is not necessarily the one that receives the most admiration. It may be the one that can survive without it. And near the end of this story, we are going to reach a far more uncomfortable revelation. The deepest form of respect may appear only after you stop trying to earn it. But first, we need to understand why vanity is so much more dangerous than simple arrogance. Number 1, the trap nobody sees. Most people think weakness looks like fear. It doesn't. Some of the strongest looking people in the room are controlled by something far more invisible: vanity. They need to be admired. They need to be noticed. They need to be right. And because they are desperate to appear powerful, they become remarkably easy to control. La Rochefoucauld understood something uncomfortable about human nature. The ego rarely announces itself as ego. It disguises itself as confidence, generosity, intelligence, even morality. A person can spend years believing they are independent while secretly organizing their entire life around the opinions of strangers. Look at social media. Someone posts a success, receives applause, and feels powerful. Then the applause disappears. Suddenly, the same person changes their behavior, their opinions, sometimes even their identity, just to recover the feeling. But here is the first question. What happens when nobody is watching? And why does the person who needs the least recognition often become the one people respect the most? The answer begins with a distinction most people never learn to make. Number 2, vanity wants witnesses. Vanity is not simply wanting to look good. It is wanting someone to witness you looking good. That distinction changes everything. A wealthy executive may buy an expensive watch because he enjoys craftsmanship. Another buys the same watch because he wants the room to notice it. From the outside, both possess the same object. Psychologically, they are completely different. One owns the watch. The other is owned by the reaction it creates. This is why vanity becomes dangerous. It moves the center of your life outside yourself. Your mood depends on applause. Your confidence depends on comparison. Your decisions depend on an invisible audience. Modern technology has turned that audience into a permanent presence. Every notification becomes a tiny verdict. Every like becomes approval. Every disagreement becomes a threat to identity. And the strange part is that people often call this freedom. But if someone can change your emotional state with a number on a screen, how free are you? Rochefoucauld's insight becomes darker here. The person obsessed with appearing superior eventually becomes subordinate to everyone capable of withholding admiration. And that leads to the first hidden rule of respect. Number 3. Respect begins where performance ends. There is a strange social pattern. The person constantly proving their worth usually receives less respect than the person who seems to have nothing to prove. Consider two leaders entering a negotiation. One speaks constantly. He explains his achievements, reminds everyone of his influence, corrects minor details, and makes sure nobody forgets who he is. The other listens. He asks precise questions. He does not rush to fill silence. When challenged, he does not immediately defend himself. The room begins watching him differently. Why? Because humans unconsciously measure emotional independence. If you cannot tolerate being misunderstood, people learn that misunderstanding you is a weapon. If criticism immediately triggers a defense, criticism becomes control. But if your identity survives disagreement, something changes. Your silence becomes expensive. Your attention becomes valuable. Your approval becomes meaningful because it is no longer automatic. This is not about pretending to be indifferent. It is about becoming less dependent on the performance of being important. Yet there is a deeper problem. Even the desire to appear humble can become another form of vanity. Number 4. The ego can wear humility. This is where human nature becomes almost absurd. A person can become proud of being humble. They can secretly enjoy being the most disciplined person in the room. They can reject compliments while hoping someone notices that they rejected them. They can say, "I don't care what people think," while carefully constructing an identity around looking like someone who does not care. Rochefoucauld's world is filled with these contradictions because self-deception is rarely obvious from the inside. Imagine an entrepreneur who claims he wants to build a great company. But every decision is secretly designed to make competitors jealous. He hires for prestige, announces unnecessary victories, and chooses strategies that look impressive rather than effective. The company grows, but the objective has quietly changed. He is no longer building a business. He is building an image of himself as the kind of person who builds successful businesses. That distinction can destroy judgment. And there is an even more dangerous version of it. Because vanity does not always want applause. Sometimes it wants victory. Number 5. When winning becomes vanity. Imagine two people in an argument. One wants the truth. The other wants to win. They may use the same words, but they are playing different games. The first person can change their mind when evidence changes. The second experiences changing their mind as humiliation. This is why vanity can survive inside intelligence. The smarter the person, the more sophisticated the defense can become. They can manufacture explanations for why they were right all along. They can turn every contradiction into proof of their brilliance. Now imagine this happening inside politics, corporate leadership, or even an AI company. A decision fails. Everyone sees the evidence. But the leader refuses to reverse course because reversing course would damage his image. Millions can be lost to protect one person's pride. Here is the paradox. Vanity makes people defend positions they no longer believe. And once a person values appearing consistent more than being correct, they become predictable. Someone who understands that weakness does not need to defeat them. They only need to make them feel challenged. But there is a way to break this pattern, and it begins with something most people fear more than failure.